We have made it to November with no snow. I think that in of itself is a great thing. The fact that we can come to this studio and bring you a podcast on time with no weather delays is pretty awesome. And we get to be back here again doing it, gents. Good to see you all on time on a Thursday night at 8 o'clock here on the Gem City Sports Podcast Network. How's everyone doing?
Been good, man. I just want you guys to know Isaac does not go over these intros with us before we start. This is off
no, this is off the cuff.
Listen, I'm here for it. I've been out for a couple Thursdays, so it's good to be back. I'm good with or without snow. I'm a winter kind of guy, but I agree. It is nice to just kind of roll with the windows down, throw a flannel on, long sleeve shirt. Yeah, I could. I keep saying with global warming, this is going to be the place to be in a couple years.
Yes.
This will be the Florida of the North by the time 2028 comes around.
Like if you think about it, if we hold on to you're in my house this year, Nick.
Yeah.
Realistically, we could sell for boatloads of money in probably 2030 if we really wanted to.
When Florida's underwater and becomes a desert, and we become a tropical climate, absolutely. I'm here for it.
Presque Isle is going to become the new Waikiki Beach or whatever it is. So by the way, I want to get your guys' takes on this. Jonathan, I know you're not a guy who doesn't know a lot about snow, but I'm sure that you enjoy it once in a while. But for me, I like snow all the way up until Christmas. I can do it pretty much until the holiday season's over. Then I want it to be done. Are you a never snow? Are you a snow through the holidays, through January? Like, where do you stand on snow, Nick?
I'm with you. Like I'm good from now to January, but once spring semester starts back up, second week of January, and I got to make that drive back down to Slippery Rock again. No, it can go away.
I was going to say that trip down 79, man. you get snow. Better yet, you get ice.
Oh, you get everything. And you can I literally will pull up my weather app and I'll pin Edinburgh, Meadville, and Slippery Rock, and you can watch the snow get lower and lower as you drive.
But what the funny thing is that most cases, once you have to make it to the Meadville exit.
Yes.
Once you get by the Meadville exit, you're fine.
Yeah.
But until then, it is a literal hellscape roller coaster ride in which you're going to go off the tracks. And Jonathan, as he's saying, this is never going to want to drive to Meadville with me through the month of December.
I'm just sitting here you guys don't like your 70-degree Christmases?
No.
You know what? I do.
Christmas it can snow.
I'm not a horrible, I'm a fan. If it's not going to snow during Christmas, that's totally fine. I just hate the whole thing where it's
you're a mean one.
It's 6 to 8 inches of snow and it's not enough to stay. So it goes away early January and then comes back in February. That I can't stand. I don't know why we're talking about.
So welcome to the flagship city weather podcast.
I don't know why. I don't know why we're talking weather when it's nice and sunny outside. So let's get into what you're all here for, shall we? Welcome in Nick Artman. Good to see him back. Jonathan Williams to my right. Isaac Petcash here in the middle. Got a Thursday episode for you. And thanks again for being a part of our station and our channel. We've gotten really good viewership over the last 3 episodes. We have some sponsorship info that we're going to give to you. Some exciting news that's coming a little bit later on in the week and early into next week. We'll share what that is. But we have a pretty cool sponsorship coming up down the pike as well. For now, though, this is the Gem City Sports Network, and we're here at the Millennium Sound Studios. Again, thanks to Mark Eisert for helping us out and allowing us to use his great studio, as always, with the great green screen in the background. Got a lot to talk about tonight. Of course, round 2 of high school football is coming up starting tomorrow. We're going to talk 4A championship, General McLean Meadville, that rematch from earlier in the regular season. Plus, can Corey and/or Titusville pull an upset in 3A against the top 2 seeds, Sharon and Hickory? Plus, McDowell, 3rd straight year against the State College Little Lions. They're not so little this season. Can McDowell pull an upset against State College and beat them for the 2nd straight year, this time at their place, just a few miles from Beaver Stadium? Plus, we're going to talk a little bit about the high school soccer and volleyball outlook. There are some District 10 teams who not only deserve recognition, but need to be on the radar map because they are 2 wins away from a state final berth and 1 win away in a couple of cases from 2 D-10 teams meeting in the state semis. Plus, NFL picks, Week 10, they're back. We're actually going to have time for them today. Browns in a bye. We don't have to worry about them.
You wouldn't have to worry about them if they didn't have a bye.
I was going to say we weren't about them anyway. Steelers and Commanders, big matchup this Sunday, and the Bills hitting the road again this week as well. So, gents, let's get this started and let's talk 4A, shall we? The big game tomorrow night at Fort LaBeouf High School. Jonathan and I are calling it for General McLean School District's page. It's GM, it's Meadville for the right to hoist the 4A championship. If you can believe this, I can't as an alum. I'm sure many can't as well. The last time General McLean won a district championship, they also went to Hershey Park and hoisted the state championship title with Drew Astorino. It's been 2006, 18 years since the Lancers have hoisted a District 10 championship. But guys, I think there's no question this is the best chance they have at winning a D10 title since that point in 2006.
Yeah, no, I definitely think this is one of those GM teams that if they're able to go on the run that I think they can go on, this is going to be one of those teams you talk about for a very long time.
Not even just a GM team. I mean, a high school team, period.
Yeah.
Like, show me a high school team that's performing like this outside of State College, but we'll get to that. But yeah, I mean, they are firing on all cylinders. Coach Bradford has the defense going. Obviously, the offense is putting up points. It's going to be an impressive matchup, whoever they play.
And by the way, make sure while we're talking about this and talking GM Meadville and others, go ahead and comment, like our show, follow us, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, wherever you get your podcast. We're streaming live tonight. Be a part of the conversation with us, because otherwise it's just three talking heads going at this for an hour and plus. You know, when I look at this game, guys, it was so fascinating. Jonathan, you and I were there back on October 10th. We both thought at the end of the game that neither team really showed their full hand. Maybe General McLean late in the game with it being close. Of course, you want to win, right? You want to get the number one seed. It felt like the Lancers maybe put it on a little bit more. But there seemed to be a sense of timidness in this game back in October that General McLean ended up winning 35-27, hence why they're the top seed. It just makes you wonder, and it makes me wonder, how much more can GM provide in this game that will shock Meadville? Because, you know, again, have they shown their entire cards yet? Have they shown their hand? I'm just curious to get your perspective on this GM team to start out with, and then we'll get to Meadville, Jonathan, because it almost feels like Marshall McCormick's got a few tricks and cards that he hasn't played yet that he may play tomorrow night.
For me, I'm not sure he's going to necessarily need to. Now, I'll preface this by saying Meadville is a pretty good football team. And if you look at the last head-to-head matchup, Meadville played them really close in that game.
Yeah, they did.
But like we just mentioned, we felt like GM was holding back. You felt like they weren't trying to show too much. They kind of had an inkling. They were going to see this matchup again down the road, down the line, and they didn't want to show their full hand. I honestly don't believe that they're even going to need to show their full hand in this game. They are so good at doing what they do. That's my biggest point. They are really good at just playing GM football. They get to the ball fast. They have big explosive plays. They don't allow you a chance to breathe as a team and as a defense. I feel like they're so good at doing what they do. Okay, they hit a couple passes over the top to Jacob Zeitz, get to the ball really quickly, throw a screen pass, touchdown. They could really run it up and not have to show very much, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think it depends on how you look at it, right? So did GM not play to their full offensive power, or did Meadville figure them out? And because, I mean, you go back and you look at that game, they won 35-27. It was week 8, so it's later in the season. You figure that offense should be humming by then, and they had been up and around that time. But Isaac Zeitz throws 2 touchdowns. He's 15 of 20, which is a good percentage, but only 191 yards.
Probably his worst game of the season.
Probably his worst game of the season, 100%. So is that, like you were saying, are they pulling up? Are they pulling back? Is that Meadville's defense? Or are we going to see GM pull out their bag of tricks? Now, if I'm going to bet on one side or the other, yeah, I'm betting on GM's offense just coming out and playing hot in this game.
You know, the one thing I thought was interesting in that game, and we're going to get to Meadville in a second, and I don't want to leave you out, Bulldog fans. We're going to talk about them. But I think what I saw from Marshall in that game late, the thing that is an advantage for Meadville that GM is going to have to figure out is that it seemed like GM, and I don't want to put words in Marshall McCormick's mouth because I know he didn't feel this way, but maybe the team figured that they could coast, right? And that they would be able to get an early lead as they did, right? They went ahead early in this game. It seemed like it was going to be pretty much, shooting out the gate and ending the game pretty early for GM when they took the early lead. But maybe the team thought, okay, we can coast, right? And I think at the end of the day, though they didn't show everything, they showed a lot more than what they probably wanted to. Yeah, for sure. And Marshall told me this after the game, and you and I talked to him afterwards, Jonathan, when we did our podcast over at Engine House, is he said, even if we show more than we want to show, I still have to, as a coach, make sure that I have a game plan which we can put in new wrinkles. And I think that's one thing GM's done really well all year.
Mm-hmm.
We know the deep ball to Jacob Zeitz can work, right? It's worked 14 times for touchdowns. Isaac Zeitz, by the way, and looking at his stats, he's got, for that Marshall sent me 33 touchdown passes. I don't know how the heck that's possible in 9 games, but he's made it work. I think regardless of what GM did in that game against Meadville, Marshall's going to have, in my view, maybe a totally different game plan. I do not think they ran the ball that well against Meadville in that game. They did not run it well against Cathedral Prep. So their last 2 games that are really pinpoint in matchup style games, they have struggled to run the ball, whether it's Teague Berger, who's had a decent season. He's got over 600 yards. Cohen Beachley, who's been a role player at times. But it just seems to me like at times GM has relied on the passing game a little too much. And I think if they're going to want to win tomorrow and more so win in states, right, that running game is going to have to come back. I really, truly believe that.
Yeah. I mean, Jonathan, you're a defensive-minded guy.
Mm-hmm.
How important is it to just control the clock, control the ball? And you control the ball, control the clock by running the ball, right? I mean, how big of an influence does that have on a defense?
Yeah, as a defense, you feel like you're on the field for the entire game.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
Like you feel like the offense, you feel like you never see your offense go out there. You never have a chance to go to the sideline, take a drink of water. Like you feel like you've been on the field and you've been playing for the entire game. And for me, for GM, it's not even necessarily, okay, we have to run for 200 yards in this game to be successful. No. Hand the ball off enough time and get enough positive runs to just keep a defense honest, so they can't just drop 8 in the coverage, rush 3 against you, and cloud windows for Isaac Zeitz when he's looking to throw the ball. Just run enough to keep them honest, run enough to make them have to put a couple extra guys in the box just in case, and just balance your offense up. And if they can do that, that opens up a lot of windows for Isaac. That opens up a lot of opportunities to get other guys involved, because Jacob Zeitz is going to be double covered. Is it going to matter? No. but he's going to be double covered. So that opens up a lot of opportunities for your Jared Corwins, for your Caden Hollers, your Jackson Kaisers, like other guys to get involved. But you gotta be able to run the football to keep teams honest.
And you make a great point, because McCormick knows this. Regardless of what strategy you deployed in the game in October, Meadville's keying in on number 2. I mean, that's going to happen whether or not Meadville won the game in October, whether they lost the game in October, whether they contain Jacob or not. And I do think, too, if you're watching film, I think Cathedral Prep put a pretty good blueprint on how to cover Jacob Zeitz. Control the middle of the field. I mean, how much this season have we talked about for General McLean? They can throw the ball inside the hash marks. They use the middle of the field. They force defenses to spread out. Prep did a really good job in that game in which they beat GM at containing the middle of the field, forcing GM to go outside. The play that Jacob Zeitz got injured on was a deep ball post route to the sideline. I think if you're Meadville, you're going to have to do that again, because Marshall McCormick is going to dial up a game plan, at least in my view, that is going to want to use all parts of the field. And that includes, you mentioned Caden Hollier, who I think is a huge player in this game. Jared Corwin, I could see GM putting 4 or 5 screenplays in for him right out of the gate. So for the Lancers, I think the offense is going to have to be big too. And then defensively, Meadville put in new wrinkles in that game in which they used the spread, they used the shotgun. So Wayne Bradford knows it's not just going to be wing T.
Right.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I remember him talking to us about, and he was like, "It's kind of difficult when you spend all week preparing for wing T, triple option.
It's boring,
football, and it's really boring as a defensive player. But also, like, that style of football, everybody has to do their job. If one person misses an assignment, if one person goes in the wrong gap, if one person doesn't tackle the fullback, it could be a touchdown. So you're beating that into your guys' heads all week, and then you show up on Friday night and they come out and spread you out and go 10 personnel doubles, 4 wide receivers, and it's like, wait, coach, we didn't
plan for this.
We didn't plan for this. So now coming into this game, like Coach Bradford knows that's in the game plan.
Right.
He knows that they can go to spread if they need to. He knows that they can spread the field and line up and throw the football if they need to, and that's going to be something that they're going to be better prepared for, I would assume, coming into this week, because it's on film now. It's on tape.
And by the way, Meadville also averages almost 1 pick a game. They've got 10 on the season in 11 games played. So there are no slouches on defense. Yeah. And I think that's where you really start with the Bulldogs. I will say this. GM is the favorite in this game. There's no question. But when you have a coach like Ray Collins, who's been here before, who's won district titles plenty of times before in 4A. I mean, Meadville has been the class of 4A for the last 5-6 years. Until GM, of course, came in and started playing well, moving up to 4A. Ray Collins knows how to win games. He knows how to win games that are close. He proved that last week in an overtime victory against Oil City to get to this point, to the 4A championship. I think it is going to be very interesting for me. Ray Collins knows how to play his defense. How quickly Meadville goes off script and offense in this game. We saw it took what, Jonathan? Mid-third, late third, early fourth quarter till they broke out the spread. How quickly do they take Jacoby Thompson and they spread the defense out? How quickly does AJ Falepa come in, who's more their throwing quarterback, and throw the football? I'm interested to see if Meadville does it early, or do they try to play patient and wait?
I think it's going to be game script. I think it's going to depend. Do you go into this, you script up your first drive, right? Or your first couple drives. Are you going to change it every other drive? Or are you going to change it in the middle of a drive? So I think it's going to be dictated by the flow of their defense. Actually, I think it's going to depend on what's the score, how's GM playing. And this is, I think, the key to the game for Meadville. You talked about that defense. I do think that they had a good game plan against that GM offense. Mm-hmm. Maybe GM had an off week. I don't know, but I'm going to look at the numbers and I'm going to look at Meadville's defense the rest of the year. They've played pretty well. So I think if Meadville's defense can stop that ZZ Top connection, slow down that rush game, then I think the offense can do whatever they want. And then they can start to play games. They can play wing T. They can go to the spread if they want to. But if they need to put up points, and they need to put up points quickly because their defense isn't holding up, I think you're going to see that switch to the spread pretty quickly.
Yeah, for me, as long as the game is close, you stay with your bread and butter.
Right.
In my opinion. If you're in a one-score football game, you come out and you run your triple option and you do your thing because that's your identity as a football team. That's what you do. That's what you do the best. That's what you do. That's what you've done all season. Where you get pushed to going spread is when you get into a situation where you're down like they were against GM the first time in the first matchup. You're down by 14. You're down by 2 scores. And it's like, okay, triple option football isn't going to put 14 points on the board. Yeah. We gotta spread this thing out. We got to throw the ball because we got to score quick. Now we got to be mindful of time. Now we have to make sure we have enough time to even get a stop and get the ball back and have another opportunity to score to tie the game. So it's going to be situational. In my opinion, it will be situational. They're going to do what they do until they can't. And then when they can't, the good thing is they have shown the ability to go to spread and still be somewhat effective. Yep. They scored what, 2 touchdowns out of the spread against GM late in that game?
Yeah. And 2 touchdowns on long 3rd and 4th down conversions.
Yeah. So they've proven to be a dangerous team when they do go vertical down the field and when they do stress defensive backs in a team's defense. So they can go to it when they need it. I just don't think that's their identity. So I feel like they should stick with their identity, and I feel like they will stick with their identity until they can't.
For sure.
The Ravens Bengals haven't kicked yet, so Wayne Bradford might be listening to our podcast right now. I don't know if he is, but even if he's not, with the respect that we have for Jacob Zeitz, I think if there's one player that GM's going to key on tomorrow, it's got to be Amari Grunaway. This guy can absolutely do it all. He has nearly 1,000 all-purpose yards between receiving and rushing. He's a senior on this offense, and to me, he is the key that unlocks both offenses. Because the thing that has concerned me for Meadville's offense all year is they have to use different personnel when they're in wing T compared to when they're in the spread. I understand that's natural because of your 10 personnel with receivers in the spread, or you've got 3 backs with the wing T. But you also have to bring in different guys to play different positions, right? Jordan Lawrence and Jacoby Thompson are playing something totally different when they go to the spread than when you play the wing T because AJ Falepa gets involved. Amari Grunaway, to me, is the one guy on that offense all season long who, regardless of what position and what formation you're playing, he can make it happen. You can bring him on jet sweeps across the formation in the spread. You can bring him across as the motion man in the wing T. He has to be the guy, to me, for Meadville that has to play his absolute best game of the season. And if he does, I think Meadville's got a shot. But to me, it's got to run through number 4. If he can touch the ball 15 to 20 times tomorrow, Meadville's got a shot to win, in my view.
For me, I second your opinion on Greenaway being the guy that you kind of got to key in on. But I look out for number 2, Tymeer Phillips. If they do have to get into the spread, this is a kid that, and we saw him. He caught a touchdown pass against GM last game. He's got 21 receptions for 400 yards. He's averaging 19.4 a catch. This is a guy that has big play potential and is that vertical target deep threat target that they would need when they get into a situation where they have to go down the field. So that's another guy. Like if you see them coming out in trips, if you see them coming out in dubs, I'm looking for number 2, because number 2 is going to be the guy that they run and they send deep down the field, and that's going to be the guy that'll burn you for a big play, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Meadville's going to have to hit a couple of big plays. There's no question they hit 2 big plays on 3rd and 4th and long in that GM game. The one that went for a touchdown, the one that went for a big first down that led to a touchdown. GM, of course, is going to have to clean things up on the back end. But Meadville's got the players to be able to compete in this game. To me, the big question is going to be offensively, can they control the ball? If they can control the time of possession, they've got a great shot to win. I think once they start playing from behind, and we saw that, they played well in the second half against GM, they still never really got within a shot. And what I mean by that is get the ball back down 1 possession to win the game. And so for GM, you're going to want to run from in front. Normally we pick this game, but Jonathan and I are calling the game. So out of respect, we're not going to call it. So I go to Nick Artman, who gets this solo pick on this game for the D10 4A championship. Nick, who takes it home tomorrow? GM Meadville.
Listen, I still got to eat wings with Coach Bradford, so I got to go GM. No, I mean, I'm kidding about the wings, but I'm not kidding about the pick. I'm absolutely going with GM. Like I said, I think it comes down to the GM offense versus the Meadville defense being able to contain that offense, and I don't think they're going to be able to do it. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think you're going to see them get tired in the 4th quarter as that GM offense gets rolling.
Yeah, and by the way, the big thing for GM, we've been talking about Jacob Zeitz. Marshall McCormick telling me he is likely good to go tomorrow. Again, after suffering that injury again in the prep game, it looked really scary when it happened. It's great to see him back. I think no matter who you are as a football fan in District 10, to see Jacob being okay and able to come through with that, out of that, is really big. So that's 4A. We spent a lot of time on that, so let's go to 3A, folks. We've got 2 semifinal games that we kind of expected. Maybe Fairview we thought might sneak in there to beat Titusville. But you get Sharon Titusville and Hickory Corey in the 3A semifinal games, and 2 teams that we follow locally in Corey and Titusville who are here in very different ways. I want to start with the Sharon Titusville matchup because I think it's the most intriguing. Sharon has to play a game in the first round of the playoffs because of the 8 seeds that we won't get into with District 10 making that decision. We hashed that out last week. Titusville, a 33-0 win over Fairview, and their defense looked really good, which I think had been the burden for them all season. Is there any chance, guys, that Titusville can pull this off? In fact, let's just do this. Chart the path for me. What does Titusville have to do to have a shot in this game? Keep in mind, they played Sharon earlier this year and lost big.
Okay, ready? Here's my chart. You ready? You ready? It doesn't exist.
Okay.
I just don't see it. Listen, nothing.
That's blunt.
Nothing against Titusville. This has everything to do with Sharon. Sharon is a powerhouse every year. And, coming off a big 65-6 win against Conneaut, I know it's the 8th seed, but Sharon has just been rolling people all year, and I just don't think it's going to stop now. They're putting up 40 points a game, and their defense is only letting up 10 points a game. That is a recipe for making a long playoff run at any level. So, sorry, Titusville, I just don't see it.
That's about as blunt as you can put it. I'll say that. Jonathan, it was 63-22 the last time these 2 teams played.
I'm gonna be honestly, like let's be completely honest. If you look at Sharon's schedule, Titusville scored the most on them out of anybody that Sharon's played.
It's fair.
Why they are as good of a football team as they are. They run the football nearly as good, if not better, than any team in D10. They're going to have to run the football, and they're going to have to stop Sharon. Yeah. I don't know how you stop Sharon offensively. I don't know how you keep them from putting up their 40 points a game, but their defense is going to have a ridiculous performance for them to even have a chance in this game. You're going to be able to run the football because you've been able to run the football on everyone all year long. So you're going to get your 2 touchdowns off of running the football. You've scored the most on the Sharon team than anybody has all season. So that your offense is going to give you a shot to at least be in the game for a while. But defensively, you have to get stops. If you allow the Sharon team to score every time they touch the ball and turn it into a shootout, you will lose that shootout by midway through the second quarter.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to be Mr. Optimistic here because someone's got to be this on the.
You just want the likes on the stream. I see it. I see it happening.
No, I gotta be the ray of hope here for Titusville in the middle of the 2 dark clouds that are apparent. I am in other places, but anyway, we'll leave that conversation for the other day. I think when you look at the way that these two teams played the last time, Titusville came out the gate and they were hoodwinked. It was 16-0 after a quarter. You look at the second, and Titusville, you can make the argument, if not for an interception they threw near the end of the first half, they'd have been down 7 points. They gave up 2 quick touchdowns at the end of the first half in rapid fire order that took it from, I think it was a 4-point game to an 18-point game, or rather a 20-point game at the half. So they were in it at the end of the first half. They just made dumb mistakes. I think the number one thing they can't do is dumb mistakes. I think from an offensive standpoint, you make a really good point, Jonathan. I think Jackson Coville has to be able to control the ball on the ground. You're like Meadville, you have to control the clock. But if I'm Titusville, I do this. You just shut out Fairview, albeit they didn't have their starting quarterback. So your defense is rolling, right? If I'm Coach Reynolds over at Titusville, I know the best offensive weapon that Sharon has, and they have a lot of them, is like Friday. You could really make an argument that outside of Jackson Coville, he's probably one of the, if not the best back in D-10. He's been amazing. I would load the box with 8 guys every play and force Ethan Engelmore to beat you in the air. Because if you take the Bill Belichick approach and you say, you know what, we're going to take away your best weapon. We are not going to allow Ike Friday, unless he is capable of bouncing outside and breaking 3 or 4 tackles to beat us. Then you force Sharon to at least think about what they're doing on offense instead of being able to roll on autopilot. And we know whether you're a 10-1 team as Sharon is, whether you're a team that is battling at 6-5, if you have to think and adjust in a playoff game, there's a lot of things that can happen and a lot of mistakes that you can make. And if Titusville can force mistakes through the air, they've got a shot in this game. But they have to stop the run. That is numero uno. You cannot allow this running attack from Sharon to beat you, because if that happens, then it's game over. I think you have to make Sharon have the mindset that we need to throw the ball because we have to, not because we want to. And if Titusville can do that, they have a chance to win this game. But I agree. I think it's going to be an uphill climb for the Rockets. And we know for sure that Sharon is probably a likely favorite, certainly in the state tournament if they can get there, if not D10. Let's call it. Let's predict the game, guys. Jonathan, I'll go to you first. Sharon, Titusville in 3A in the semifinals.
I think Titusville will be competitive for a while, but I'm going Sharon. I think they have a little bit too much offensive firepower for Titusville to contend with.
Nick, to you.
I don't think there's any question. I'm going Sharon as well.
Yeah, and I agree. I do think this game will be closer than 63-21. I just don't think Titusville's really good at adjustments. They have been very good at cleaning up the defense all year, and that has been the thing that Reynolds has harped on since the beginning of the year in training camp. But I agree. I think Sharon is too powerful, and mainly because they don't make the big mistake. And Titusville has shown that they are capable of making that. And even if Sharon makes a big mistake, they can still win the game. So I think Sharon's going to win this game. I think Titusville keeps it somewhat competitive, but at the end of the day, the 1 seed's the 1 seed for a reason. And then we go to the other matchup. And I go to you first, Jonathan, because I recall 2 weeks ago that when we predicted the brackets for District 10, you had Corey upsetting Hickory in this game. So now I go to you a week later and ask, would you like a mulligan, or are you hitting your second shot from where you hit it off the tee?
Corey, you don't make this easy for me. You did not make this easy for me. 9 points against Fort LaBeouf. All we talk about and all we have talked about all season is how powerful and how high-flying this Corey offense has been. And maybe it's just a matchup thing, because the 2 lowest scoring games they've had all season are both getting against LaBeouf. So maybe that was a matchup thing, and maybe LaBeouf just has your number, and that's what we can chalk that up to. I'm not going to renege.
Okay. All right.
I made my pick. I'm going to stick with my pick. Corey's offense has to show up in this game. More importantly, Nolan Carey has to show up in this game. And I hate to put it on one guy's shoulders, but you've been one of the better, if not one of the best quarterbacks in this region for the entire season. It's on your shoulders to carry that offense and to lead that offense. You have to.
Yeah.
You're going to have to score every time you touch the ball.
Yeah.
In this matchup, you can't have any mistakes. You can't miss any simple throws. You can't miss any reads. Everybody has to be on the same page, and that offense has to be clicking and rolling, because you're going to have to score every time you touch the ball to beat this Hickory team.
And you're not wrong. And I give you props for picking Corey. I mean, look, The fact that we are looking at Jonathan like he's got two heads, given the season Corey has had, is just indicative of how good Hickory has been. Nick, I'll go to you. I imagine you're probably going the other direction. Who do you have in this game, and what's it going to take?
I'm not. If he's got two heads, I'm the other one because I'm going Corey.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
I have been a fan of Corey all year. I agree. It absolutely has to go through Nolan Carey if they have a chance in this game. You talk about the Fort LaBeouf game, and I think it's Fort LaBeouf's. It's more indicative of Fort LaBeouf's defense than I think it is of Corey's offense. Fort LaBeouf, their defense has really kind of been their strength all year, all the way back in week one, from week one, and Farrell all season. So I think it's more, those two games are more about Fort LaBeouf's defense than it is about Corey's offense. Now, will Hickory watch the film and say, okay, what did Fort LaBeouf do to Corey to stop that game? Yeah, absolutely, they're going to do that. However, I got to give the edge to that Corey offense. I know Hickory's rolling. They're putting up 40 points a game as well. I just want to believe that they are riding the hot hand, and I mean Corey. Because the other thing I think works against them, you talked about oh my gosh, we had to put 8 people into the bracket. But, with Slippery Rock dropping out and Hickory wins by forfeit,
coming into the game cold.
They're coming into the game cold, 100%. And I think in this case, if you're Corey, you don't want to be the team coming in cold. You want to come in hot. You want to come in fired up after having just played. I get that there's rest involved, and I guess that you want to play. But I think Corey is carrying the momentum into this game because Hickory got the week off. That's enough for me to go, Corey's going to sneak this out.
Man, you guys are putting together a compelling argument. I'll put it this way. I think this game's going to be really close, and maybe Hickory proves me wrong. It's hard for me to pick against a team that has a quarterback like Xander Tellez and the way that he can orchestrate the offense. I really, really want to pick Corey in this game. I do. I think you make a good point. And keep in mind, too, Corey's got a bunch of great receivers, led, of course, by Keaton Forcina. They have weapons on the outside. They are capable of scoring the football. But Jonathan made a point, and I agree with it. You got to score every single possession. You can make no mistakes. You have to get big chunk plays on every single drive. And my thought is this. I think Corey, if they're able to do that, I still don't even know if it's going to be enough, because I look at Fort LaBeouf is such a different team than Hickory is, right? In terms of their style, the way that they play, the speed of which they play. And I think when you look at this game, I think the speed is such a big component of this. I think Corey, if they had been this way back-to-back years and Jeff Goodwill had put together consecutive great seasons, I would say, yeah, I think they're a year away. I'm going to take Hickory in this game. I think at the end of the day, it's a lot closer than what people think. And I think I will say this as a bold prediction. I think Hickory and Sharon both come into the District 10 championship game a little concerned about their game. I do. And look, I hope for Corey, of course, we've watched them all year. They've played extremely well. Their offense has been great at times. The concern for me was that LaBeouf game. And I understand the Bison defense were great all game long, but you got to put up more than 9 points to convince me that you can beat a Hickory team that's going to probably put up 50 at least. And I don't say that as a bad thing against the defense. They've just done it against every team, almost every team not named Sharon all year. I'll take Hickory to win.
Yeah.
I love these guys being bold. I really hope that for Corey's sake, they're able to keep it very competitive, and we have a great story to talk about on our podcast tomorrow. But that's our 3A picks. Of course, the championship game next week, so we'll get to that. We're going to finish out high school football here on the Gem City Sports Network. By the way, give us a follow. Give us a like, comment. Let us know how we're doing. Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch, all of where you get your podcast.
Tell Isaac why he's wrong.
Tell me why I'm wrong. I'm wrong a lot. I've learned that a lot this week, apparently, allegedly. McDowell Trojans. I was at Memorial Stadium.
Dog. Sorry.
I was parked at Memorial Stadium in State College on Saturday morning ahead of the Penn State-Ohio State game. And we figured that is where McDowell was going to be playing this Friday night, and that is the case. McDowell takes on State College tomorrow night for the third straight year against the Little Lions. It's become a bit of a rivalry, and these two teams have split the last two games. McDowell got them at home last year, 47-20 in the 6A sub-regional, and State College won that wild and wacky game, 57-50 in triple overtime back in 2022 when it was snowing, it was windy, it was cold, but it's been a really great last 2 years of a matchup, and they play again. Guys, your thoughts on this game and what you think McDowell's going to have to do to win it after what we deem, Jonathan, as kind of a subpar performance in the District 10 championship game on offense specifically. Key for McDowell here. State College hasn't lost much. They've only lost one time, and we wonder how McDowell's going to be able to get this done.
Blaze Myers has to look like Blaze Myers. You have a great running back in Stephon Baby Porter. You have a great receiver in James Ziegler. Your quarterback, your QB1, your leader of your offense has to look like himself in this game for you to have a chance. I don't feel like he really looked like himself last week, and you were able to survive the Erie game because Erie just, quite frankly, couldn't play clean enough football to put you away and to take advantage of your lack of offense in that game. But you're not going to be able to survive this game if you don't play your best football on that side of the ball. And that starts with your quarterback. You've got to be able to throw the ball. You've got to be able to find a way to get him into a rhythm early into this game. I don't care if it's screens. I don't care if it's drags, slants, out routes. Like, you have to find a way, go quick game early and just let him see a couple completions. Let him see the ball leave his hand and wind up in one of his receivers' hands just a few times early in the first drive, just to establish that confidence and establish that rhythm. Because rolling all season long, your offense is going to have to show up.
If you're McDowell, you talk about the offense is going to be big and key as well. You look at the other side for State College and you say, okay, the one guy you have to key on is Ty Salazar, who has been a great receiver and a great defensive player all year as well for the State College team, Nick. It's been such a funny road to get here for McDowell. All year we talked about their offense, right? They can put up 40-plus points a game, yet Aaron Slocum's a defensive guy, and the only two games which they've allowed less than 30 points and won were against Erie.
Right.
So defensively, what's the key to stopping a State College team that has so many weapons it's hard to figure out who to key in on? Because I wonder for McDowell, they certainly should gain confidence from the Erie game, right? The way they play defense. What's the key in your mind against this State College offense who can really distribute it to whoever they want?
I feel like this has been the excuse I've used all night, but ball control, right? Because, I mean, you're talking about a State College team that's putting over just over 40 points a game. They can score on any, pass, rush. It doesn't matter. They're going to put the ball in the end zone. So I think it's got to come down to Stephon Baby Porter, right? Run that over and over again where you are just trying to push his, like, the carry count's you got to give this guy 30 carries a game, right? Because you need to ball control offense, because you got to keep State College off the field. So I think, maybe this is a cop out, but again, the best way for McDowell to play defense is to play offense, because that defense is not going to be able to keep up with State College. Now, on the flip side, I agree with everything Jonathan said, because I think that to be that offense with Blaze and Baby Porter and Ziegler, they have the firepower to keep up with State College. Yeah. So I think that's got to be the key to the game.
And I think, too, you mentioned the run game. That's how McDowell won last year. They ran the ball down State College's throat, and even though the Little Lions were able to put up a bit of a comeback in the middle stages of the game, McDowell was getting 5, 6, 7 yards of carry. That was Cooper Cousins' best game. That's when he showed, look, world. I mean, I'm going to play in State College, and I'm going to demoralize State College before I go to college. And so I think for McDowell,
James Franklin walked out and said, "Hey, you're starting. Let's go."
I know that guy. Well, he's looked good this season.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I think I agree with you guys for McDowell. The defense for me, I think the offense can correct itself because, we don't know if Blaze Myers is injured. There was nothing said about it. He just didn't look himself last week, whether or not it was an off night or something was going on or whatever. I think he can correct himself. He's shown that all season long, after losses especially. But the defense for me is going to have to be huge. And I think if they can hold State College to 40, the average, they have a chance to win the game. The offense is clearly capable of putting up more than 40 points. They've done so in nearly every game that they've had success in this season. So McDowell State College coming up tomorrow night. That's a road game for McDowell in Memorial Stadium, just a couple miles outside of State College. So that should be a good game and a fun one at that. You guys got your thoughts on who's going to win that game?
Listen, I've been playing Homer all night. I love my guy Blaze Myers. He is a class act individual as well as a quarterback. I couldn't come up with an answer for your defensive question because I don't think the defense can hang with State College. Unfortunately, I just don't see McDowell keeping up with this titan of a State College team that is just blowing teams out. I mean, we talked about the offense, but here's if you go back and look at State College's schedule, right? Starting in week 1 against Gateway, 49-14, 57-0. Okay, they lose to Harrisburg 7-6. Come back week 4, Cumberland Valley, 30-14, 29-7, 24-7, 38-0, 55-17, 60-0, 58-55. Yes, I'm rolling off a lot of numbers, but what I'm seeing is a large number in the win column, in the points for column, and I'm seeing a really low number in that points against. So I just, if I'm looking at this game, McDowell's defense cannot hang with State Colleges.
Jonathan, what say you?
I see an offensive shootout.
Yeah,
I lean towards Nick's opinion that McDowell's defense is going to have a tough time against the State College team just because of how many weapons they've got. Yeah, I'm going State College.
I was gonna say, don't leave me, best friend. You be my best friend tonight. Woo!
I'm going State College, man. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think McDowell's offense is going to make this game interesting, and they're going to put up a fight in this game. They're not going to go out. I don't feel like they're going to roll over.
Right.
And that's like the most important thing for me is like, don't go out and roll over. And I don't think they're going to do that. I feel like there's going to be a shootout. They're going to put up points offensively, but I don't think their defense has enough to stop.
I agree.
Cool. Man, I'm the middleman today. I'm going McDowell. I think they're going to get it done.
It's gotta be different.
I gotta be different, man. And I have an explanation. I think the reason why I believe this is because they have the blueprint to be able to do it. And keep in mind, a lot of the weapons last year that were part of the team that won this game are back. Blaze Myers, Stephon Porter, James Ziegler, the guys on the outside. Aaron Slocum watched Coach Orlando last year put together a blueprint as to how to beat this State College team. It happened 2 years ago, and they nearly won that game and maybe should have won that game and went to triple overtime. I think for McDowell, they understand that the defense is not going to be able to get many stops. So then what do you game plan for all week long? You put your scout team defense you load them up in the box. You try to figure out a game plan to get Stephon Porter to the football without having to run him downhill down the middle. McDowell, I think, in these last 2 years has gotten really good at being creative against State College and how they're able to play offense. And I think, to your point, Nick, he mentions a lot of the scores State College won by. A lot of the results late in the season, the Little Lions also gave up points. Their defense was not stout by any imagination. And I think for McDowell, it's such a confidence thing. It's almost like the Erie game. They didn't play their best. They still won. They're going to have to play their best in this game. But a lot of the players they saw last year against this State College team are the same ones they're going to be facing this upcoming year. And I think when you look at Aaron Slocum, we have not yet seen his greatest defensive performance. At some point, we're going to have to see it because we haven't seen it yet. And I think even if McDowell is 85 to 90% sufficient on defense, and they give up 40, I think they can score 48. I'll go McDowell in an upset. It would be an upset, no question, but this is my upset of the week. I think McDowell's going to win the game, and I think you're going to see in some way that Aaron Slocum is able to get his offense to score enough points, and I think more specifically the defense is going to need to make two key stops, and I think they're going to make 2 key stops, and I've got McDowell winning this game, and I continue to be on the monkey in the middle, I guess you could say, between these two guys who are definitely smarter than me with picks. I've missed a lot this year, but we're going to keep on rolling here on the train. All right, we're going to talk some high school soccer and volleyball in a second. Of course, right now, our show tonight in the Millennium Sound Studio on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch, and on X. Thanks again for being a part of our show. It's been a really fun last few months and specifically last few episodes talking about this and getting you ready for high school football playoffs. Now we get rid of the prop because we're talking high school soccer and high school volleyball. Jonathan, I just want to touch really quickly on, and I know you get excited with the soccer game, and maybe you'll get a chance to see a local rivalry coming up in a couple of days. There have been a lot of District 10 teams, folks, specifically in Erie County, who have been playing very well. I want to run down the list of teams that are in the PIAA soccer quarterfinals. On the girls' side, that would be Cathedral Prep, the District 10 champion. They beat Burrell in the first round 1-0 to move their record to 18-1. They get North Catholic from the Whippeal, who is always a hard out. That game on Saturday. Then on the boys' side in 1A, Mercyhurst Prep, they just keep rolling, man. District 10 champs. They beat Eden Christian in the first round. They get Bentworth in the quarterfinal on Saturday. And then in 2A, we had them on the show last Thursday night. Fairview Boys Soccer, don't think that they're impressive yet. How about going and beating Deer Lake 6-0 in their state opening round to move to 20-2? They get Avonworth in the second round. And if they move past that win, and then Cathedral Prep beats Trinity on Saturday, those two teams would play for the state semifinal and a chance to move to the state final again. Prep beat the number 1 seed and previously undefeated South Park 3-1 to move into the second round. So Sam Tuiega's squad, they continue to win games. That's because they know how to win games. And Jonathan, it's great to see. I think we talked a lot about soccer and had Fairview on in last podcast. And it seemed like Sonny Vidakovic and players that we had on had an idea that they didn't want to say it, but that maybe it was likely that we'd see them in prep again in the state semis. And it's great to see both those teams doing so well along with the other teams we mentioned.
Yeah, anytime your team is good as Fairview, you have to have that we're only focused on the next game mentality. You can't get caught looking too far ahead in potential matchups and deep into the playoffs, because that's how you get caught slipping. And I feel like this has been a really focused team this year. They have had that next game, that 1-0 mentality as of sorts, where they're not focused on a potential state championship run. They're not focused on a potential Cathedral Prep rematch. They just want to win the game that they're playing next. And if you look at their schedule, they started the season with a loss. Then they rattled off, what was it, roughly 10 straight wins before they lost again?
Yeah, they went on a roll.
And they're not beating teams by 1 or 2 goals. I'm looking at 5-0, 8-0, 10-0, 4-0, 4-0, 8-0, 5. Like, they are dominating teams as they did recently in the first round. This is a really good soccer team and has the makings of a state championship caliber soccer team.
We had Jackson Chioco as one of the players on the show. You could make an argument that he's going to get the state player of the year in boys soccer. He's that good, especially in Class 2A. He continues to score goals. And for Prep, it's so intriguing to me because they moved from 3A to 2A this year. And a lot of people around the area said, that doesn't make any sense. Prep wins the 3A state title and they move down, that whatever. Folks, 2A is harder to win. I think you could argue than 3A is. And Cathedral Prep is showing that. They lose in the District 10 championship game, but yet they're still in the second round. I would love to see Prep and Fairview play each other on Tuesday. And if that happens, we may have to do a special episode just for that game, because that would be super awesome. And also awesome would be if Cathedral Prep and Corey play each other in girls volleyball in the state semifinals, because the Corey Beavers, who have long been noted by many as the number 1 2A girls volleyball team in the state, beat Neshannock on Tuesday, 3-0. They're 17-1 of the year. They play Richland on Saturday, and Cathedral Prep ahead of them, on top of them in the bracket, play Southmoreland coming up on Saturday. The Ramblers, big win on Tuesday, 3-2 in a dramatic fashion over the number 1 seeded Whippy Quaker Valley Quakers. They're now 16-5 on the year. So we get, guys, another chance to see a pair of District 10 teams if they can win one more game in the state semifinals. And that would be great for business, because we saw what Fairview Girard did in terms of a crowd last year in basketball. Could you imagine if they did that again in soccer and volleyball? It'd be pretty cool.
We talked about this on Monday, man. Like, District 10 athletics are showing out.
It's gotten really good this year. Really good.
Yeah, it seems to be really balanced across especially all of the fall sports. There are teams that have state championship aspirations in every sport. And it's rare that you see that type of caliber, that level of play across different sports from the same region.
Yeah.
It's rare that you see it all at the same time. So what a time to be a D-10 sports fan. What a time to be a member of District 10 and a supporter of District 10 athletics, because these schools in this area are killing it.
Yep. Can I just say to the members of PIAA, if we get Corey Cathedral Prep volleyball in the semifinals, and if we get Fairview Cathedral Prep soccer in the semifinals, both those games would be played on the same day. I don't care whether it's GM. I don't care whether it's LaBeouf. I don't care whether it's Edinburgh University. You pick the same school, one inside the volleyball court, one on the soccer pitch, those two games at the same location. And we will do a podcast from there on that night. I can promise you.
Stagger the times for us.
GM would be more preferable, because then we can come over here. But PIAA, do us all a favor. Put those games at the same location on the same campus, and then we can do a podcast.
Man, please.
But again, congrats to all the teams and all the teams that are still moving on in soccer and volleyball. We got a lot of teams and a lot of talent to Nick's point. The District 10's been showing out this year, and it's been like that for a while, but this year in particular, we've got some real teams that are just at the top or near the top of the state level in so many different sports. And the potential that we could have our 4th District 10 versus District 10 meeting in the last calendar year in a state semifinal in 4 different sports. We had Fairview and Fairview and Franklin, or Girard and Franklin, I should say, in boys basketball back in the winter. We had Harbor Creek and Sharon in the state softball semifinals back in the spring. And then you have the chance at Prep Fairview in soccer and Corey Cathedral Prep in girls volleyball. That would be something else if that would end up happening. And we'll, of course, keep you updated as we learn more and we hear those scores come in on Saturday. Best of luck to those teams. All right, Saturday is volleyball and football and soccer, and Sunday is the NFL. Let's talk pro football, folks, shall we? Trade deadlines passed. Everyone's made their trades. The Browns gave away some players. The Steelers got some players. And the Bills, well, they had made their big trade already before the deadline really came in. We're going to talk a little bit about that more so later in the season once these players either make impacts or whether they don't. But let's do our predictions as we normally do on a Thursday night for the NFL in week number 10. We're going to start with the Buffalo Bills because I want to save the Steelers for last. Guys, I want to ask you a question in all sincerity. Is this the second best team in the AFC?
Who are you putting at 1?
Kansas City.
Listen, I know it's Mahomes, and I know they're undefeated. All right, I'm not going to do that. I was going to try and make a case for Buffalo because I was really starting to think of it, but you can't get over the Mahomes bump. Yes, I do, because I am not riding on. Sorry, Coach, I'm not riding on the Ravens bandwagon in terms of. I love the moves that they made at the deadline, and if they can put that team together, they're going to be dangerous. But yeah, I think you're right. Buffalo's sitting at number 2 in the AFC.
I just look at this team and I think, okay, they bring in Amari Cooper. He has a touchdown in his first game, but he was inactive last week. Didn't play well the week before. The defense really isn't even playing their best right now, Jonathan. Greg Rousseau got a couple of sacks last game, but AJ Epinesa has turned invisible. Daquan Jones hasn't played very well. Terrell Bernard's been, if you will, and the secondary is kind of the secondary. I mean, I look at this team and I'm like, they've lost weapons from last season. A lot of their stars haven't been as good as they've been, and yet they're better this year because, to me, Josh Allen is putting the team on his back in a big way.
He's got 2,000 yards at this point in the season. Like he has been playing like Josh Allen, like the Josh Allen that we expect him to play like the Josh Allen that we said before the season started that they were going to need him to play like for them to be good this year. I definitely think they're the second best team in the AFC. They've been playing like it, 7-2. Josh Allen putting the team on his back and being one of, I'd give them top 4 quarterback in the entire NFL this season so far. They're the second best. They're the clear-cut favorites in their division. There's not anybody who's going to come within a puncher's chance of knocking them off of the division.
How about this for Buffalo? It's week 10. They're already printing playoff tickets in Western New York.
Yeah, as they should be.
Honestly,
as they should be.
Should be because the Jets, man, that has been a debacle.
Yeah.
Miami.
Paul's not on this show.
Yeah, sorry, Paul. No, but I think to your point too with Josh Allen, like it's not even the 2,000 yards are impressive, but I think what impresses me the most about Allen right now is the 2 interceptions.
Bingo.
Because I said this when we talked about picking division winners and the lack of offensive firepower that he had at the beginning of the season. I had said my biggest fear for Allen this year, because everybody was saying, oh, we're going to have MVP year from Josh Allen incoming. I was worried about him forcing the ball and pushing those turnovers, having to run more, getting hurt. He hasn't done any of that. He has played fantastic. He's making Khalil Shakir look like the number 1 wide receiver. And then you throw in, okay, Keon Coleman's still trying to figure it out. Oh, and you go and trade for Amari Cooper. James Cook is playing out of his mind. Like, yes, absolutely. Allen is having an MVP caliber year.
It's so interesting because someone said after week 3 or 4, I don't know what analyst this was, but they compared Allen to the Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes phase of where they are now in their careers. And the one thing that they mentioned, and I thought that was a really good point, is that great quarterbacks can do great with great talent.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks that are transcendent are the best at making a team win games when they lose their best option, right? With Brady, it was, okay, Randy Moss leaves the door. And he doesn't really have a receiver one. Wes Welker leaves. For Mahomes, it was, of course, Tyreek Hill leaves and goes to Miami. For Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs is no longer with the team. But then you look at the receiver, to your point, Khalil Shakir is having a career year. He's arguably right now a top 10 receiver in football. And I don't say that dramatically. I mean, this guy is open all the time. Keon Coleman is starting to figure it out. Dalton Kincaid is now getting involved. Heck, Ray Davis was a guy who didn't even have a great shot to make the roster at the beginning of the year,
right.
And now he's challenging James Cook for the lion's share in carries. And so, it pays to have a great quarterback, but I think more than that, it pays to have a guy who has experience. And now for Buffalo, they're in a great spot because this was supposed to be their retool year, right? It was supposed to be their year where maybe they made a playoff spot. Maybe they won a playoff game if they were lucky. But now they're sitting at 7-2. They're going to be 8-2 after Sunday when they beat the Colts. And I think you look at this Bills team, and I would make the argument right now because they play Kansas City next week. I think Buffalo's going to win that game. I look at the team and I'm like, man, the defense isn't even playing as well as they could be playing, and they're still crushing teams.
Yeah, I'm looking at the receiver room right now, and like their passing attack has been so balanced this season. Like, oh my God, like there's no one name that jumps off the page. Like Khalil Shakir is at the top, but it's not by much. Keon Coleman is 60 yards right behind him. When you look at targets, 45 for Shakir, 36 for Coleman, 54 for Kincaid, 22 for James Cook. Like it's so balanced. He's spreading the ball. He's spreading the wealth to literally everyone. If you line up in a blue jersey and you play receiver, you have a very good chance of getting the football. And it's something that it seems like is rare these days for these numbers to be this balanced and there not to be this one target that gets his guaranteed 8, 9, 10 targets a game and it's just dominating targets and dominating receptions and everything like that. This team is really balanced all around, and they've been playing really well all around as an offense. And then, like you guys said, 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions for Josh Allen. The turnover merchant, Josh Allen, he has 2 interceptions. He's playing his best football right now.
I will say this too, and I think this is a appreciation for what Allen's done in the lack of turnover department. Everyone wants to talk about Ben Johnson as a head coach next year in the NFL, and deservedly so. He's been great. I think Joe Brady is right behind him on that list. What he has been able to do to help Josh clean up the mistakes, as Brian Daboll did when he came into Buffalo. And not just that, allow Josh to understand that you don't need the deep ball all the time. Josh hasn't had to take off and run as much. It's been more of when he wants to than he has to. And I think to be able to spread the ball around the offense, look, losing Stephon Diggs may have been the best thing that happened to Buffalo because now defenses can't key on anybody specifically, and you're just gonna keep winning games. And I think Buffalo is gonna win on Sunday. What say you guys? Everyone in favor of Buffalo against Indianapolis this Sunday?
Yeah, definitely Buffalo over Indianapolis.
What's crazy about this game? Yes, I'm not leading up to a big reveal. Buffalo over Indy. But what's crazy about this game is like you look at this and you go, okay, Keon Coleman's probably out. Amari Cooper and Curtis Samuel have both been limited. Mac Hollins is questionable. Like they have 4 wide receivers who potentially are not playing in this game.
On the injury list.
And I still have to go Buffalo. Like Indy is just playing bad football. Flacco, listen, the Flacco magic was alive in Cleveland. It's not in Indy. Jonathan Taylor is the only thing you have going for that offense because Michael Pittman is also probably sitting.
But they don't run the football.
Right. Yeah, that's mind-boggling.
Jonathan Taylor, and don't hand him the football.
Yeah. And a good offensive line, So I think this is going to be a low-scoring snooze fest. If I'm a betting man, take the under, and I just think this is the game Buffalo's defense gets back on the right track.
Yeah, it's roughly 40-something point line. I think the spread is Buffalo -5. I would hammer that if I'm a bettor. I think it should be Buffalo -9 or 10.
Yeah,
I don't think the game's remotely competitive, and we all agree Buffalo's going to be 8-2, and they may have a Y next to their name as division clinchers by week 13. That's how
5 games.
Man. Yeah,
if they win 5 and the Jets lose 5 more, that's it. They get the division.
It's insane.
In week 10.
It's insane.
Now look at this. Who had on their bingo card DeMar Hamlin being second on the team in tackles, leading the team in pass deflections, and leading the team in interceptions to this point in the season?
It is an amazing story, man. And for a guy who I was there on that night in Cincinnati watching him go down, and to see what he has been able to do. And to our point, Buffalo's defense has not been all that great to their standards, and yet still DeMar is the one who's leading the charge there, and they need him too. That's the thing. It's not just a feel-good story. It's a needed story because Buffalo's secondary, as we know, is thin. They released Mike Edwards earlier in the week, and so they need DeMar to be able to be that guy with Taylor Rapp in the secondary at the safety position. All right, folks, Steelers Commanders. Who would have thought this would have been the biggest game of the week in week number 10? Not I, said the little red hen. I'm interested to see how this game plays out. We've seen Russell Wilson play 2 good games, but I think this is the first really legitimate. You could say the Jets had a decent defense, but this is going to be the first tough atmosphere that he plays in, right? First true road game, Washington coming in at 7-2, and now Pittsburgh off a bye. Is Russ capable of having a third straight great game in your guys' mind?
I'm still waiting for the shoe to drop on Russ. Like that's just me. Yeah. I have not been able to put my absolute confidence in the fact that Russ is going to lead this team to the promised land. I'm still kind of waiting on the magic to run out and for him to kind of regress back to what at least I thought he was going to be when they thrust him into this role. He's been playing well to this point, and it just got him another weapon, adding Mike Williams, which is huge for them because it gives you somebody else to line up on the other side of George Pickens, and it stops opposing defenses from being able to key in so heavily on George Pickens and cloud him and double cover him or put a safety over him. So things are trending in the right direction for us to keep playing well. He's got more weapons. He's been playing well to this point. He's got the momentum behind him. Me personally, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop, and I think it might be this week.
I think with Russ, this is the game. I don't know that I'm waiting for the shoe to drop because he's looked great. He's looked comfortable, which is what I was worried about. Like in those moments where the plays break down, Fields is running, and he's got that running ability. Russ doesn't have that. So I was worried about coming in and watching that Jets game and going, he is going to be fighting for his life. He played great. They won 37-15. And then you better beat the Giants. Sorry, Jonathan. You better go in and beat the Giants because they're an awful football team. So listen, if you're going to give Russ 2 games to figure it out, those are 2 good games. The Jets defense is not as good as maybe we thought they were going to be. And the Giants defense is, well, exactly what we thought they were going to be. So I think this is the first real test. I don't think I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. I absolutely think they can win this game. Tomlin's record against rookie quarterbacks is insane. I tried to find the number and I lost it in my notes. And so, but this Washington defense is playing just as well as Jaden Daniels in that offense. Mm-hmm. So this will be Russ's true test. I do think that Paul is doing enough to convince me that I am good with riding Russ the rest of the year. He's playing this RPO option to just at an outstanding level.
I actually think this game is going to come down to the defenses more so than the offense. As much as we want to talk about Jaden Daniels and Russ, who both deserve it, they both played well. Jaden's going to probably win Rookie of the Year. I think for the defenses, the big storyline is they're going to be the story of the show and the additions that they made. I think Preston Smith was a really underrated move that Pittsburgh gets for a late-round draft pick from Green Bay. I think he can help significantly that defensive line, who, let's face it, they're old. I mean, they've been productive. But maybe then it gets TJ Watt more one-on-ones if Preston can start getting pressure there on the defensive end. And maybe that helps Pittsburgh in their defense. And then the Commanders, you talk about the team that's going all in, trading for Marshawn Lattimore from the New Orleans Saints.
He may not even play this week.
Right. And I hope he does, because him against George Pickens would be an unbelievable matchup.
I don't, but I'm a Steelers fan, so I don't want him to play.
Absolutely.
That would be a lot of fun. I think Joey Porter Jr. on Terry McLaurin is going to be equally as exciting, but I think the defenses are going to get the job done. This, to me, is a game for Pittsburgh where it's going to probably take a quarter and a half for them to figure things out. And really, in the 2 games that Russ has started, that's what it's taken, right? Last couple minutes of the first half is when they started to figure out and find their dancing shoes. Then in the second half, they were able to run the ball more. My big question for the Pittsburgh offense that I think is even more than Russ is, can they keep this running game going? Can Najee continue to find his legs early in games and run the football? Because that, to me, is what's helped Pittsburgh more even so than Russ, is you can run the football, open up the defense, and then that's allowed the deep ball to happen with Russ to Pickens and the lot. So I think it's going to be a good game. A huge game for both teams, because Pittsburgh, after this one, then you face the schedule from hell, where you have all 6 division games plus Kansas City and Philadelphia. So it is paramount, even at 6-2, that you win this game, because 7-2 feels a lot different going into the back half than 6-3 heading into week number 11. Jonathan Williams, your prediction: Steelers Commanders, who gets it done?
I'm going Commanders. Jaden Daniels has been playing out of his mind as a rookie quarterback, and I know Mike Tomlin's record against rookie quarterbacks is something absolutely ridiculous.
25-6. I found it.
Ooh.
25-6.
Ooh.
25-6. Jaden Daniels is playing better than your average rookie.
Yeah, 100%. Tomlin said the same thing this week.
And you couple that with their defense being as good as it is. Who knows if Marshawn Lattimore is actually going to play this week? I think it's coming out that he's not, or at least that's the rumblings that he's not going to play this week. But whether he plays or not, that defense has been playing out of their minds all season long. Like you guys said, this is going to be Russ's first true test. He played a Jets team that was reeling. He played my Giants. Like, this is going to be his first time playing against a team that is going to have some things to throw at him and is going to have some playmakers on the other side of the ball. I think they stumble this week.
Yeah.
Nick.
I think you have to follow the words of Tomlin, right? Here's what he said in his press conference this week. Quote, "We don't care about the Joneses, man. Our story is our story. We got an agenda and we're trying to live it. And when we don't meet it, we're thumb pointers. We're the guys that look in the mirror."
That's like all the Tomlinisms combined.
You know what that means? I don't know what that means. I'm like,
that's in line with the nameless gray faces.
I don't even know if that means you're excited or you're nervous or you're pumped. I have no idea what that means. But I will tell you this. I am going Steelers in this game. And I think you're right about the run game. And it's not Najee that I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see a healthy Jaylen Warren.
Yeah.
I think they're a perfect Thunder and Lightning team. Warren plays that nice dump-off role for Russ that he can get to the outside. He's got the speed, and then Najee's going to pound it up the face. I also really like the additions that the Steelers pulled in the trade deadline. I know we didn't really get a chance to talk about it, but I mean, you get Mike Williams for a 5th round pick.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Put him on the outside on the opposite side of Pickens and let Van Jefferson and Freiermuth run in the middle. Oh, and don't forget about Darnell Washington.
Alvin Austin there too.
Yeah, and then you get Preston Smith for a 7th round pick. Green Bay's like, here you go. Take him. We don't want him anymore.
What happens when you request a trade midseason?
And he's not. Yeah, that's fair. And he's not going to be the starter, right? You have Highsmith. You have Watt. Obviously, is playing out of his mind. I think Watt coming out of a bye is going to be on fire. Then you put Preston Smith. Oh, and Nick Herbig's going to come back at some point. This team is gearing up for a playoff run. They're gearing up for this late season matchups like you were talking about, and I think they're going to take this one close.
I said before the week began that for Pittsburgh, the next 2 games would be huge, this one specifically, but then next week you get Baltimore at home, right? They realistically have to win 1 of 2, I think, to stay on track. I think this is the one that they're going to win. I'm taking Pittsburgh in this game. I've really not picked them at all this year for any single game. But to Nick's point, I think it's an ugly, grinded-out game. Russ probably doesn't play well, but at the end of the day, I don't think that's really the story. To me, the story of the game is going to be, how can Pittsburgh get to Jaden Daniels, and can they force him to have to throw the ball more than 40 times in this game? I think if that's the case, at some point, Jaden is going to have to run into a defense where he just can't figure out the rookie magic. And I think TJ Watt being there and his versatility will be big. I think Pittsburgh's going to run the football a lot. I actually don't think it's the Mike Williams and George Pickens who ends up making the big plays in this game. I think Freiermuth and Calvin Austin and maybe even Van, to your point, Nick, could really win this game for Pittsburgh, and knowing what they have on their schedule.
Dude, watching Darnell Washington catch a ball is like,
how do you tackle it?
How do you tackle it? Forget Derrick Henry. This Darnell Washington's what, like 6'7", 350? This guy is an animal, and he is nimble. No, thank you. Get that guy the ball as much as you can.
But by the way, if I were in the red zone, and I know people talk about, making sure Justin Fields is in there, I would have Justin Fields and Darnell Washington as my lone 2 options in the red zone.
Yeah.
Because you can't tackle Darnell and you can't touch Justin Fields. I'm going to take Pittsburgh in this game. I think it's going to be a great game. It's great to, first of all, see the Commanders playing so well. And for both teams, this might be, like we said, a playoff tune-up, knowing that they're both in contention for the postseason.
And to round out the Rust Belt, the Browns will not lose this week.
I don't know about that. That bye week, they did a number on the Cowboys a few weeks back. And we saw what they did to Cleveland in week 1. I don't know, man. What it is.
Faith.
It's a loss. Faith. It's more time to get that new stadium planned.
This might be their most evenly matched game that they've played all season.
All right, I'm done.
You know what? We're gonna get a notification on Sunday afternoon that the Browns have changed their name to the Brook Park Browns officially, and Paul Adamczyk will do a dance in his home in Akron, somewhere on Sunday afternoon. All right, we're done here. Great stuff today. It was a wonderful show. All the high school football preview and predictions. Maybe we got it right, maybe we didn't, but we're gonna figure it out tomorrow. Jonathan and I will be at Fort LaBeouf for General McLean in Meadville. And then we'll be doing a podcast. We're not sure if it's on video tomorrow or whether it's going to be on Twitter Spaces, but we will be live breaking down the GM Meadville game plus all the other games that happen around. And for all the teams locally that are playing on Saturday, best of luck. We do hope we get to see those rematches in the District 10 that were in District 10 and now would be in the PIAA semifinals. And, of course, Steelers on Sunday, Bills on Sunday. Make sure to get out and enjoy the nice weather, by the way, gents. And if you're interested in hitting the links, I think there's one more good weekend here. So I'm sure I jinxed it. I'm sure we're going to get snow next week. So we have to enjoy the ride while we can.
Oh, listen, I'm here for it. Listen, I'm looking up tee times at Culbertson right now.
Ooh, I'm all for it. All right, we're gonna have to make a time this weekend. All right, we're done here. We'll see you all tomorrow. Enjoy the weekend of football and sports alike. See you all tomorrow night, guys.